The Chiefs showed up. Not sure the Bears did, but that's all right. The Bears will come back another day. The Chiefs move on and get the W in dramatic fashion. Good drama and bad drama. For some of us, it was a little bit difficult today, thanks to YouTube TV and the back and the forth and the stuff in the business. Welcome to RGR Football. This is the Sunday Night Live post game. This is Dan Harms. I'm Ryan Tracy. Your Chiefs got the W over a team that, quite frankly, was not prepared. I don't know if it's just playing the champs or just the fact that they're in complete disarray in Chicago. But this wasn't a ball game very long. I was actually surprised that the Chiefs didn't score in their first drive, but that was about the only problem with the day in terms of the offensive production. Did you see anything I missed?
No, not really. It looked like they were definitely firing on all cylinders after they got going. And my biggest note here, we're going to start off the top, is they almost used as much 12 personnel as 11 personnel with their starting offense. That sends an absolute message to everybody that this is our best personnel grouping and we're going to use it a lot. It's also a big hat tip to Noah Gray for improving as a pass catcher and a blocker. It allows them to use 12 like 11 personnel and get those mismatches. So that's a huge improvement. Yes, I know it's against the Bears defense, they're awful. They're the worst defense. Well, maybe not after the Broncos day today. They're the worst defense that we have seen the Chiefs play in quite some time. But it was really them getting down to business, getting into the personnel they wanted to, the plays that they wanted. And after that, it was over from the moment they scored that first touchdown.
Yeah, agreed. To my liking, got Kelsey involved early. We'll talk about the Kelsey drama later in the show, I'm sure. My girls are giddy that Tay was in the house, so let's just roll with it.
Me too. I was too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Rock and roll.
I'm a Swiftie.
Okay. Nice to hear. I thought that as we started the ball game again, had a drop from Rice on the first drive on third down, right? He played up and down all day. He did have another drop, let it into his pads late that led directly to that turnover. But other than that, and a couple of non-routes run by a couple of tall receivers that we'll talk about later, I thought everybody pitched in. I thought the offense flowed. Obviously, Travis looks more like Travis again. I didn't see any lingering effects from the knee injury at all. Did you?
No, he looked comfortable. Looked like he was just fine out there. And maybe that had to do with, his girlfriend being in the house for the first time. But I'm going to go ahead and call it that because it was made very obvious that is now what's going on. So that always gives you a little bit more oomph and, pep in your step when you're trying to have yourself a day. And they ended up getting him in the end zone. So hats off to the staff and Patrick Mahomes for getting that done.
I'm just going to say it like this. If you guys, for you single guys out there, hell, for you single girls too, go get you a friend that loves this combination more than Greg Olsen does. I dare you, because that is like the way to go, man.
Loved it. He was invested from the moment that he knew Taylor Swift was in the house. He was like, yes, I'm going to talk about this the entire time. And that's what pretty much they did.
Well, I don't care where the motivation comes from. They got it done. On the day, it was a good day out. We'll take a look at the stats here. Make sure you like and sub and hit that bell right now. Become one of us and become a subscriber to this channel. Every super chat gets an answer tonight, as it will tomorrow night on the Monday Night Q&A as well. We're going to try to get all of your topics. Every single one. We might not get everybody on screen, but we will give that our best shot. If you want to get in on the action, you want some of the content, get in on the Discord, become a member. You want to get the gear that Dan's wearing or that I'm wearing, you can get it in the store. That always helps us out too. The channel is multifaceted around here. I wouldn't call it fashion sense. We'll ask Taylor, but the hats look good. The gear looks good. So check it out if you're interested. Guy that stepped up to me early was very clear that even though he was supposed to be a game time decision, Pacheco had the hamstring during the week. He looked good. He looked energetic. He looked like himself. And they actually gave him the ball. Big takeaway for me, number one, is Andy listened. Not just when we told him to run the ball more, but he's heard you specifically say, use the draw, because it worked out. He got 9 carries. At one point on that last drive in the first half, he was at 7 yards a carry. It did fall off from then, obviously, as the game wore on, but that's okay. I'll have to take a look at where he finished, but pleasantly surprised for me. How did you feel about the run game in particular?
It's exactly what they needed to do. The offensive line was moving everybody in sight against a terrible defensive front. There's no two ways about it. It's not a good defensive front, and they had to take advantage of it. They had to come out, run the ball, and I counted at least 3 or 4 draw plays. I even have it in my notes. Another draw. They just kept going at it, and I'm like, hey, I'm just saying, Andy. I understand that you got somebody watching the channel now because you're taking some of our ideas and some of our stuff. So anytime you want to have me in, we'll talk. We'll talk ball. I'm available. So I'm loving it. Love what they're doing right now. And this was the game they needed to have. We talked about how they had to lock in. They had to be focused on the objective. They did exactly that. They came away with a big win, and pretty much everything that we talked about on Friday, they did. Every single thing they did well. And that's all you can really ask for.
That is. I mean, honestly, that was a big positive. And for anyone inside One Arrowhead Drive, you can reach us at 303. Oh, wait, we're not going to give that number out here, but you can get a hold of us. Love to consult on what you're doing, because this was where they rounded back into shape. And this should have been a get right game. Let's not mince words. This wasn't surprising. This isn't like outlandish, but they got it done. This is something that we've seen them in the past slack off of. Take for granted, not put the hammer down, not finish the ball game. And was there a lot of scoring in the second half of the Chiefs? No. But in the end, that's going to be all right. I'm going to show you guys the possession chart here, because I do think it illustrates what we saw in particular. And that is, as you get through the first half, touchdown, field goal, touchdown, field goal, field goal. And then you get to the second half, and obviously things slowed down. The last touchdown was the last drive that Patrick Mahomes was in on. And I think that's what's really important to take away here. My second big note of the day is Patrick Mahomes got hurt again. Doesn't look like it was serious, but it's something significant that we're going to have to watch now going forward, because you can't let this stuff happen any longer. Was it a little bit freaky? Yeah. I mean, the guy was past him and rolling back towards the front, but still, you can't take those chances. You got to have a cleaner pocket. And that's on Donovan Smith, and that's on Juwan Taylor, wherever he lines up. In fact, we'll talk about the tackles as a group here in a second, but Mahomes appears to be okay. Yeah. I thought he, of all people, played well enough to get out of that game at that point. I would have not even played him in the second half, because he looked so good and so back to normal in the first half that I wouldn't have taken the chance. But where do you land on him?
Yeah, I think myself, I was saying get Patrick out of the game as soon as it happened. I mean, it really is a freaky thing to have someone fall on your heel, like basically fall when you don't see it happening, and he fell behind him. Like it's tough to stop that kind of stuff from happening at any point. He got blown up on a throw that he just dropped in the bucket to Justin Watson earlier in the game and didn't get hurt. That kind of shows you how different these things can happen. And all it takes is a teammate stepping on your foot, teammate stepping on your ankle, someone accidentally falling into you, and you could have an injury. But it's the right ankle again. Wasn't that his injury the first time was the right ankle? Mm-hmm. So that's something that, like you said, they have to monitor. They have to make sure that he's taken care of the rest of the season. He can't be having people falling on his ankles, because even though he did win the Super Bowl on it, I'd rather him not have to play a whole season on it that way and have to worry about that for the rest of the year. So I think he'll be fine, though.
What an idea. Let's avoid that. That sounds smart.
Right.
That said, when we look at the stats for Mahomes in particular, efficiency was there. Not like the biggest passing yards. A couple of big plays were called back. Let's be real about that as well. Yeah. Let's get that back up here so we can all take a look at it. Trying to make sure you guys let me know if you have any trouble seeing this, if it's not big enough, etc., to see on screen. But as you end, what you see at 272, roughly what was it? That's 71%, give or take, on the completion percentage. 3 touchdowns, no picks. That's the day that you're looking to have. I feel bad for Blaine Gabbert, because I don't think those 2 picks are on him, to tell you the truth. At least one of them is not. Yeah. So it's tale of 2 halves, and that's all right. Pacheco, obviously 4.1 on the ground, down from where it was at 7 at one point, but situational game flow is going to give you that. We're going to answer the first of the super chats here in just a second, but I do like this list. In 5, it is 11 targets. 11 guys targeted. And hey, I'll take that every week, because it gives you the chance to whatever storm you might be going through. I like the way that they spread it around today.
Yeah, they did a good job of really concentrating on 3 guys with Travis Kelce, Rashee Rice, and Sky Moore. You have 8 targets, 7 targets, and 6 targets. That's what they have to do, in my opinion. Like, they have to get three guys and target them heavily, and then everyone else will get theirs too. MVS had a couple deep balls today. Justin Watson had a deep ball. They had Noah Gray involved a little bit, but you need to concentrate some of this offense on 3 specific players in the passing attack to then get everybody else involved that way. So the way they were able to do that and kind of set out with this plan to concentrate their offense through a couple players and then facilitate otherwise was a good idea on their part, because obviously we could tell, yes, the Bears defense isn't very good, but it helps keep them on schedule. Like, it helps create big plays, and it helps everyone else function. The run game was a part of that too. So, and both Pacheco and Clyde's numbers in terms of yards per carry came down in the back half of the game when the Bears were just trying to stop the run. So it just kind of comes to that way. But I do think that the run game was really good today, had to be, and facilitating the offense with concentration was also something we talked about on Friday. So it's nice to see.
Yeah, I'm really tickled with that part of it. Folks, we are going to go through all of our game notes for the most part today. If you're a member, you can get my game notes probably tomorrow night, if not for sure on Tuesday. You can do that by joining the memberships. There's a join button underneath Dan over there. It says join. Get in the memberships at the rookie level or above, and you get access to the notes. You get access to the Discord, which is an automatic connection when you go into your Discord account and you connect your YouTube account to it. Super simple. And you get instant access to all the chat rooms where all of our regulars are in. A lot of our moderators are in there. You can hit people in DMs. Stevie Keys is in there a ton. Like, it's a great community. If you want into it, you can get there by joining at the rookie level or above. And so my notes will be there this week. All spelling is subject to interpretation. I'm just going to warn you on that one. I don't take the time to spell check them later. It is not worth the effort, I got to tell you. So you guys will get the gist of it. So we'll start in on the questions, and we're going to go mostly in chronological order here, just to get something going. Ocean, nice to see you. What are your biggest concerns still on the offensive side? Thanks for the awesome content Ryan did. Thank you. We appreciate you. For me right now, the big question is the tackles and the ability to be consistent. This is what we expected. This is the first that I felt like I saw the Chiefs offense that I have been expecting.
Yeah, I agree. It feels like the tackles are still trying to figure some things out. Donovan Smith still has not played great. He's been the biggest linchpin in the offensive line, in my opinion. I think Jawaan Taylor's played fantastic, and he got benched. There's no 2 ways around it. He got benched in this game because he was unable to line up correctly, even though I think the second flag was erroneous on all accounts.
I've heard a lot of people say that, and I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm really interested to see what it looks like on 22.
Yeah, that's
because I think the angle we saw is definitely suspect. So
it's possible.
Let me put it this way and see what you think, because this is what's in my notes. The problem is that these are mental errors. I think he should have been benched. I think he should have been pulled before that, to tell you the truth, because he's a professional. He's a vet, and he shouldn't be doing this any longer. This is a pre-snap mental error. He doesn't have any problem making blocks. He's playing just fine. He's just being stubborn and not recognizing that he's going to get called for it and making adjustments. Quite frankly, he can move up 6 inches and be just fine. It's not like he's getting beat around the edge at all. So I'm not concerned. Just knock it off and fix yourself is my attitude.
I think that for the most part, he has done that. And I think the bigger problem is he's being focused on, which isn't necessarily his fault to this point. And I will see on the angle eventually, whenever that comes out, if he was lined up wrong. But even going based off that, Donovan Smith was lined up further back than Jawaan Taylor was. And this is not being consistent around the league. There's every single time I watch football, there are players lining up, offensive tackles lining up too far back, and they're not getting called. So you want to focus on Jawaan Taylor. That's fine. Make it consistent. So it's not just one guy having to get benched to prove your point. Make it consistent across the league so that everybody has to adjust, not just one guy that you want to make an example of.
Yeah. And I think, Jonathan, you were getting at that too. Should he be benched for a game? No, especially now, especially when Donovan's got a little bit beat up too. He had an elbow and an ankle thing last year. Donovan Smith is not exactly an Iron Man at this point. So
Yeah.
I expect that more than Prince Tagovailoa will be active next week. I think that's the only way that you can be prepared for this game. When Joe Tooney starts warming up to take left tackle drops, I get concerned. Okay.
Yeah. I
So,
agree.
so while I see your point, Jonathan, I would not do that. I would not bench him for a ball game.
I'm with you.
Okay, cool. So we agree on that one. We will address that next week, of course, in the game plan, folks. We've been doing the game plans live on Friday nights with me in usually remote locations just because of my family schedule. You guys seem to be enjoying those. Dan sounds great. I don't, but we still give you the information that you need. And if I can schedule it better, we'll get away with it. So I think it's all going to be fine. Ocean, you had a question that coincides with another as well. Do you think you found our new punt returner? And that is Washington. And that's what Not One More is thinking about. Thank you for the support.
Thank you.
One. Washington had a wonderful surprise with punt returner. What are your thoughts? I mistakenly said on Twitter that he was signed because of the injury to Richie James. No, he was elevated, brought up to the 53 is the point. I thought it was a positive outing. I don't know that I'm ready to call him the punt returner. Are you?
I'm not ready for it, but I think that was something that they've been missing. Nico Remigio was going to be that guy, and then he got hurt. Like that was who would have been brought up in this situation. I think if all things would have been fine for him, it would have been Nico. But the electricity, the shiftiness is something that we haven't really seen in the backfield on those punt returns, and Washington brought a lot of that to the punt returning. So I think that right now with Richie James on IR, it's his job to lose. Honestly, they're going to have him be up on the roster, and all it takes is another couple of good returns, good games where it's going to be him, and Richie James might not play the rest of the year, if we're being honest.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what that. I didn't see whether the designation was in place for a number of weeks or if they're just playing it by ear, and we're going to find out, because one way or the other, they're going to have an answer on that. But not one. We'll see what happens. It's more than likely you're going to see him do that again, and I'm pretty comfortable with it after one day. So cheers. Chiefster, appreciate you. Who else thinks that Pacheco brings a whole new energy? He certainly does. And I felt actually that his energy usually overrides his feet a little bit, where he chops too much and he dances a little too much. I thought he did a better job with that today, Dan. How did you feel?
He was definitely more decisive today. You could tell a lot of times he he plays in the hole a little bit too much, and he tries to do something he necessarily can't do. And a lot of times when he takes it outside when he doesn't have to, he's going to lose yards because he's a great runner upfield, but when he's going laterally, he doesn't have that curve linear transition. He can't transition upfield with that curve motion. You see a lot of guys when they're running, they can kind of bend a corner and start accelerating that way. He can't. He has to do like a square. He's got to stop and go. Like he's got to really box that off. So those are some that you still saw a little bit today, but most of the time he was getting to his spots and he was cutting up because the offensive line was giving him holes. He pretty much didn't have to do a lot of work today in terms of just getting through upfield and doing what he does best, dragging guys for 3 yards at a time. So it's definitely something that the offense misses when he's not on the field, because he adds that physicality that the offensive linemen are the only ones that can really relate to that. He's the only guy that brings that same level of physicality that the offensive line does. So they definitely appreciate that too.
Well, and that was another thing that I highlighted is they got a touchdown on short yardage. It wasn't Pacheco on that one. Okay, fine. But it felt like they made a concerted effort, not just to run the ball, but to get the physicality up and be able to win in short yardage against what is a depleted defensive front. I admit that. But I took it as a positive overall about the preparation for this game, not just the execution.
Yeah, I agree. It was a focal point. A lot of the things that they did today were based on getting things right, like we talked about. Like they had to use this game as an opportunity to fix some of the issues that they had in their offense. Short yardage, running the ball, and getting receivers to sit down in zone were all things that we saw take a big step up today. And they were all things they had to work on.
I feel pretty good about it. Kel, your question, with the Bears looking so bad, are there any players in the Bears that you would trade for? I honestly like Jalen Johnson. Is there room for him on this roster? Probably not. I mean, would he beat out somebody? He'd probably beat out Jalen Watson as it is now. Josh Williams looks a little banged up. We'll see how he recovers. Yeah. If you want to add young depth, I would look at him, sure. Brisker got hurt today. He's probably the only other guy on that defense that I would look at. And I'm not convinced with Mooney or Moore, certainly not Claypool. So I'm not going to look for really anybody that's in Chicago right now.
No, not even a little bit. Just leave them where they are.
Sorry, guys, you're stuck in old Chi-Town. It'll get better. It's just going to take a year or two. Joseph, thank you. Appreciate your support, pal. I missed most of the game due to traveling. How did the young receivers look? And I think this is a tale of not only halves, but ups and downs within the game. The one guy that I felt was most consistent was Sky Moore. I thought when he didn't complete passes to Sky Moore, I didn't feel like it was on Sky. Did you?
No, he looked like he was in the right spot most of the today. And that's everything we've been asking for. There was a clip that I put up earlier this week where Mahomes trying to hit him deep down the field after he breaks off a corner. And instead of going deep down the field, he takes it and he just turns around and looks for the football where there's a zone defender right underneath. And Mahomes can't throw that football there. It didn't look like he was in any issue, seeing any issues with his ability to find those spots. Also, recognizing man coverage, you saw him on a couple of whip routes against man coverage kind of take some defenders to the woodshed a little bit, and that was nice to see too. So it looks like he got used this game also as an opportunity to get comfortable, and that's really what they needed. Get some of these young players an opportunity to show that they can do what this offense is asking of them, and that's why they're here. That's why they felt comfortable moving on from Juju Smith-Schuster and bringing up Rashee Rice and Justin Ross making the roster and Sky Moore taking on more this year. I think that 6 targets today is a good step in the right direction for Sky.
Yeah, I agree. And it's clear that they feel like they can be confident in him
Yeah.
as well as Rashee Rice because they gave them so much attention today. And I'm glad to see that. In terms of what happened with Tony, obviously only one target. It was, he got kind of blown up on that little swing. I don't even remember if there was a bleed block or if it was technically a screen or not, but they decided they had enough going that they didn't need him.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think it was any kind of like problem that he sat. It was, we don't need to put you in this position any longer. So I feel like Tony's okay. Rice with a couple of drops I was concerned with, but he also made a couple of really nice plays. He turned it up well in the middle. He sat on that little curl in the middle. I felt like he played well. And I think we're starting to see an evolution of what this offense's plan is. You see, I think when you take a look at what does happen, Kelsey in the 10-yard per average range, that's pretty normal for Kelsey, between 10 and 12. Yep. Rice, very similar to what Juju did in around 12 yards. Sky Moore, same thing. And then it's your shot takers with MVS over 30 and Justin Watson over 25. So it feels very much like the roles are starting to congeal a little bit. Do you feel that same way?
Yeah, it definitely does. And we talked a little bit about in the offseason about how this is kind of how the offense was going to run. You'd have your guys that take the deep shots, and then they just need to find ways to move the chains. And when you can get 10, 12, 8, 9 yards a clip for these pass catchers, that's what you're going to do. You're going to continue to move the ball down the field. And defenses, which are just trying to force Patrick Mahomes to throw the ball to a check down, even Jerick McKinnon, when they gave him an opportunity, 3rd and 7, he gets a first down. Like, there's got to be a point now where Mahomes continues to do this, where defenses don't have an actual reply to it. A lot of it was, we're just going to force you to check the ball down. We're going to play across the field on defense, which is what we saw really the Lions and the Jacksonville Jaguars try and do, to make him throw the ball underneath, which he didn't do a lot in the first 2 games of the season. And then he did it a couple times today and got some first downs. And I thought the first one to Clyde was a bit of a mistake to check it down to him so quickly. That showed on the play when he got tackled. But at the end of the day, it's all about continuing to get those first downs. That's what this offense right now is predicated upon. It's predicated on getting the first down, not the big plays anymore. The big plays will come when you continue to get 8, 9, 10, 11 yards on a catch. Defenses have to come down on those passes. They just have to. And that's when you see MVS break for a 50-yard touchdown that ends up getting called back on a penalty, or another bomb to him later, or a Justin Watson bomb. That's just what happens.
And I think that's the way it needs to be for now. Until you can force defenses out of that pattern, I think that will come eventually. And so to answer Steven's question, should you be optimistic or worried about Rashee getting more than Sky? I would be optimistic about it because it was an opportunity against a lackluster defense, even though the secondary is probably the strength of that defense, to feed Rasheed and see what he can do. Now they've come away, like, you need to spend more time on jugs. You need to make sure that you're attacking the ball in the air. Don't let it to your pads. You can't do that crap anymore. It's over. Like, this is all the evolution of a young receiver. So I think this is an opportunity to feed him and grow from it. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, they also used the exact same route concept on 3 different catches to Rashee Rice. That was, hey, they're doing the same thing on defense. We're going to throw it back to you. There wasn't much to actually, it was 4, because the drop that he had was almost the fourth same kind of route that he had, where it's just sit in the middle of the field. Like, that's what he was doing. And they weren't able to stop it. So that's going to change as well with better defenses and better defensive concepts that you're going to see. But it was just, okay, they're not going to stop it, so we're going to go back to it.
Yeah, I'm with you. How worried should we be about the ankle? Do we need to start backup ankle watch? I don't think so. Luckily, they got him back out of there right way. I thought he looked like he was moving fine on the last drive of the second that he played, the second half. I'm not too concerned about it, Quinn. We'll see if they make any kind of announcement. Bunch of people had the same question, whether plus or minus on Blaine Gabbert. I'm just going to throw you guys all out there at the same time because I don't care. It means nothing to me. I think
agreed.
Throwing him into that situation, having guys dropping passes, tipping for INTs, I didn't feel it was anything to do with Blaine Gabbert. Did you?
No, I thought the first one was an unlucky tip. He saw I think he tried to really fit it in a window he shouldn't have. Honestly, it was a little bit of a risk take to try to fit it in under there. Gets tipped. Am I thinking of the right play?
I think you are.
I think so, because it was an outstretched defender underneath defender, and he was trying to layer it behind him, if I'm not mistaken. So that's an unlucky one where you think you can beat someone to a spot and then you can't, and then Rashee Rice drops it into the breadbasket of the defender, which is another bang bang play you don't see happen a lot. Much like the tip drill earlier from the Chiefs, when you have a tip drill right into Mike Edwards' hands, you don't really necessarily see them go like that all the time. So Gabbert's gonna be fine. Like I personally don't care about how he played and the fact that he was the only reason the Bears scored 10 points. Whatever.
Yeah, that's okay. And by the way, the Mike Edwards interception was so Mike Edwardsian.
It was.
I had
everything
to
about about Mike Edwards on that play. He's just there. Oh, thank you.
Here's a gift. Ikea, did Rice Taylor cost Mahomes the MVP lead today? Maybe the lead, but I don't think it has any long term. They're missing as much on anything else than what those two guys did. So I wouldn't be too concerned about it long term. Andrew, should Casey be looking for that the kid from K-State as a future Travis Kelce replacement? I haven't seen him play enough to know if I feel that strongly about it, but he's certainly on the radar now. So
yeah,
have you watched him yet?
A little bit. It's gotta wait and see that kind of stuff. Like I'm still wary of Kansas State players playing that way in the NFL. If I'm being honest with you, we're going to find out more about Felix. I think he's got a lot of potential. I don't think he had the best day today, honestly. If I'm being honest with you, he seemed to get stuck on a lot of his pass rush snaps where he's like outstretched and he's not doing anything to try and get loose. And I was just like, you got to be a little bit better about that in a game like this. This is an opportunity to really work on your stuff. And he didn't do that. And I was a little disappointed, but it's not. We'll find out a little bit more later. See how he tests too. Let's kind of wait for that.
Yeah, that's very true. Maybe he wasn't feeling good or whatever, but I saw the same thing. Like the continual effort after he initially was blocked, it wasn't there. And I was looking for him to get his first sack today, and it didn't happen. So kudos to Mike Dana and Chris Jones, of course. I thought GK played a great game today in terms of
he was
whether
everywhere.
bull rushing, ripping off, and moving around. I thought he did really well. So there'll be more from it. And Andrew, check out Westbrook or Westmore, whatever his name is. That Penix has been throwing to out at Washington. There's a tight end that you want to look for a nice little combination. He's going to be a late round pick that I think I'm going to dig pretty well. Brandon, thanks for the support, pal. Is it because their defense is bad or a sign that our offense is starting to turn together? Yes.
Yes. That's the answer to your question. Yes.
You are correct on both counts, my friend. But it was the synchronicity, and more importantly, it was early in the game that they were working, and that showed that the offense was coming together. And then it just was a cavalcade for the poor Bears.
Absolutely.
I hate to use bad news, but it kind of was today for them. So
Yeah.
Sorry, Ma. My mom was a Bears fan. Olave's looking really good, and Rice impressed. I like your optimism, Knicks fan. Thank you. And Olave is super good. I just need Rashid to play to the ball and secure that ball better. You are a wide receiver, and I think the emphasis needs to go on the receiver for him right now, not the turn up and play make kind of maneuvers.
Yeah, I was happy with Rice in this game. I know he had a couple of drops, but over time, drops will wear out. Like they'll go away for most of these players, and it wasn't something that he had a lot of issues with in college. Like he wasn't known as a drop guy coming out. He was just more of a inconsistent senior year because of an injury, and he still made the big plays. Like they're not asking him to make hard contested catches, which is also a little bit of a mental thing. Like it's mentally, he's like, I'm here. I don't have to make a big catch over somebody. There's nobody around me. I just have to secure this football. Sometimes that can just get in your head a little bit. So I think that as the season goes along and he's not having to think so much about, okay, I need to get to this spot. I need to stop. I need to look for the ball. And then I have to catch it. Once it's just a more of a playing fast kind of thing, those drops will go away, is my opinion.
I think so myself. I'm with you. Donnie, thanks for your support, pal. Appreciate it. I want Montreal Washington to every single return now. Rashid Rice looked fantastic. These Chiefs are the best in 7 years. Let's go. I like your attitude, man.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with Washington. I'm being a little more critical of Rice than everyone else. That's okay. I'll be the bad guy. But yeah, the Chiefs defense is coming on. And what's in my notes for them is just the fact that it wasn't any one, like, it didn't take Chris Jones dominating this game for them to play this well. Yeah. This was a swarming defense, everybody rallying to the ball, guys making individual plays, whether it's McDuffie or Jay Will or Snead. The secondary seemed on. I thought Greg Olsen did a pretty crappy job of blaming Brian Cook for that collision with Jay Will. He actually didn't really hit him that hard. So I just felt like he didn't really see the play. And I hope that Josh is good to go. Knock on wood. I'm guessing that he's going to be.
I didn't like the fact that Brian isn't looking at the football. I didn't like that at all. He's driving on the player. And from what I've seen out of Brian, that's typically his MO. He's not really looking for the football. He's looking to hit somebody. And that's how you hurt players on your own team. He put, by no obvious, he didn't want to, but he put Josh Williams in harm's way by not looking at the football. If he looks at the ball, instead of hitting Josh Williams, he might come up with a pick. Maybe he's coming across on the football, or he could just knock the ball away instead of trying to hit somebody before the ball gets there. So at the same time, I'm not happy with the way that Brian Cook handled that situation, but it wasn't like he wanted to go out there and hurt his teammate. He was trying to jar the ball loose, and by happenstance, he hit Josh Williams, but he's got to look for the ball there too.
I would like that. Usually what I found is when a safety isn't looking for the ball, it's because he's behind on the play and he knows he's just going to have to get there and make a play once it's caught, is my thought.
Probably right.
But sometimes it depends on your jump, man. Thanks, Donnie. Appreciate you. Chiefster, from the list of offenders in the first 2 weeks, who has redeemed themselves? I would say there's no redemption needed. The one that I'm most worried about is Taylor, and the one that I feel most comfortable is Sky Moore.
I don't disagree at all. I think that they went to Tony hard last week, and I think he more than proved that he's going to be a guy when he's healthy that they'll continue to go to. Sky Moore has been nails really since the first game. Has had some miscommunications on route concepts, which he's still apparently learning. And Juwan Taylor, outside of the penalties, has been literally worth the money. He's been fantastic. Get that out. I think that they'll be fine.
Yeah, his blocks, his contact is just fine. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with the way he's making contact. It's just the lineup portion of it. That's fine. And again, just to say it out loud for everybody, I don't think he needs the jump start, to tell you the truth. I think
agree.
He's just fine. Let's see. Brett, Your opinion on how Tranquil did replacing Bolton. I was actually really happy with him. I thought he came down well. I thought he showed that he's put on a little bit of weight so that he's able to do that. He was in the right place. He was on a delayed blitz once that I thought he looked really good until he made contact. And he wasn't able to strike through as much, but that's not really his MO. So given that that's not something he normally is asked to do, I felt really good about his performance.
Yeah, he played well. I thought that the linebackers in general were in pretty good position most of the game. In the run game and the passing game, they didn't look like they were outmatched because, I mean, let's be honest, Cole Kmet's not going to outmatch them. And their running backs aren't fantastic players. They're good players, but they're not great. So they didn't have a huge matchup problem on their hands, and they didn't have to deal with it too much. So I think they played well.
Yeah, I agree. Folks, we got about 10 minutes to Locked On Chiefs goes live post presser, so we're going to wrap it up with your questions here as we go kind of speed round here. TPT, Chiefs defense being the top 5 by the end of the season. Do you all agree? It's a possibility more than it was last week. I think they're probably still in that 12 to 8 range.
Yeah, that's where I would put them too. I don't think top 5 at the end of the season will happen, but you never know. We do know one thing. This is the best defense that Patrick Mahomes has ever had. Ever.
Yeah, that is for sure.
Scary thought.
Yeah. Max, do you think if the starter stayed in, they would have beaten the Dolphins to score? No.
They didn't want to.
No.
Mike McDaniel had a grudge and a bone to pick with the Broncos, so he went out there and put 70 on them.
I like it. Is Andy saving a QB sneak for the playoffs? I don't think so. I think it's more likely we see Wildcat if anything else, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, we shouldn't see anybody lining up back there to take a QB sneak. Not even people not named Patrick Mahomes doing it. The rest of Andy Reid's coaching time.
Honestly, I'm more than comfortable, even if they know it's coming, putting Gabbert out there because he is so stout and he is so long for a quarterback. If you're going to do it, go for it. Mike Nike, does Sneak get an extension if McDuffie keeps playing this well, man?
I don't think so. But again, it really depends on how much he's going to garner. I would say, again, 3 games in, what's L'Jarius Sneed done to get a huge extension? What has he done? He's played well, but he's not an all-pro. He's probably not getting voted to the Pro Bowl, and he's not picking the ball off, which to get paid as a corner, that's what you have to do. It's why Diggs got his extension with Dallas before the terrible, awful, no good, very bad injury that he sustained. Yeah. But Sneed's been a very good player for this team. But we're talking about an extent, like he's not going to get a huge extension from the Chiefs. And if they want to offer him something and he says no, they will be fine saying good luck on the market. It was nice to have you.
Ralph, there's nothing better than I do than revenge. Is that what you want me to say for Ryan Poles? I don't know. Like I'm trying to come up with others. I'm not exactly a Swiftie, so
I've got a couple on my Twitter, Ralph. I've got a couple of them.
I'm doing the best I can here. I'm an old man. I listen to Blackberry Smoke more than I listen to Taylor Swift. I'll just tell you that. Is Justin Fields a bust?
All right.
Woo!
It's a tough question. I personally think that Justin Fields could have succeeded. Okay. What has happened to his development might be more difficult to fix. The Bears could have broken him. Okay.
Yeah.
It's very possible that what has happened, that Justin Fields will never be a good starting quarterback in the NFL. This happens to a lot of young, talented players. Sam Darnold was a young, talented player. Terrible situation when he was drafted. Look what happened to him. He's a backup for the San Francisco 49ers, and everyone wants to see him play for Kyle Shanahan. Justin Fields might need to go somewhere else to be a backup and get whatever is going on. It's not just in his head either. It's his footwork. His footwork in the pocket is his drops are inconsistent. His inability to throw the ball down the field when guys are open, the second guessing, because his coaching staff has told him, don't throw interceptions. So he doesn't throw the ball down the field. That ball that he threw to DJ Moore, that was dropped by DJ Moore, should be a finable offense from DJ Moore. It should be finable. It was beautiful. But that's what Justin Fields can do. But things like that happen, and then it snowballs, and then he makes things worse. So he needs to leave Chicago. He needs to leave, and I think he's got a shot. But right now, if he stays in Chicago, he's a bust.
I agree with you. I think he needs a fresh start. Does that even happen? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Tacos, thank you for the support, pal. Appreciate your super chat. Do you think that
What's
MVS
up,
gets
Tacos?
cut, finishes out his contract, or gets extended after the year? And do you think Ross eventually takes over the role? I'm going to tell you about Ross before Dan tells you about MVS. I watched Ross on 4 snaps, and I saw him walk routes on 2 of them. I was not happy with his performance today. I don't care if you're the backside X. It doesn't matter. Run your damn route, because he took plays off. And as the last guy on the roster at your position, you can't afford to do that.
Right there. That's just lazy. It's just lazy. And even if you know you're not getting the football, even if you know, you have no excuse to not run a route. You have to be able to draw a defender to you, because you never know what's going to happen. If you are lazily running your route and that defender does not pay any attention to you, and then you have someone streaking open in the back half and that defender can just take off and cover him downfield, that's on you. But you can't run half-assed routes in the NFL as the 7th guy when they don't usually keep 7 wide receivers at that position. They usually don't. So MVS is probably just going to finish out his contract. I don't think it's a huge one for them to worry about. If they have to make space later, possibly. I would also think that he's somebody that would take less to play here. I really do. He's not going to make a ton on the open market. Everyone knows what he is, and his skill set is very useful in this offense. So I think he'll finish it out, and he might get extended, to be honest with you, just to have that deep threat on the team.
Yeah. And it looks like just before I put that up, Random Taco was saying, did you guys skip my super chat? Not at all, buddy. We're just slow.
We got it.
Just answering everybody's questions. Appreciate you. And we're going to answer all your questions tomorrow night. So make sure you're back here at 7 Central so that we can get cutting before Monday Night Football. We'll answer them as well. We got a few more here. And then we're going to cut out for the pressers, and I'll have a live stream over on RGR. I'm locked on Chiefs tonight. Sorry. We are on RGR. Sometimes it takes a village here. Reed's up now, and he said the only injury was Prince, which is good.
That's good.
A quad contusion is something that can be a pain. I don't think it's life altering, so we'll see whether he practices on Wednesday. That's going to be the key for me. If you had to choose right now, given everything that we've seen, every snap since camp opened, if one of the tackles cannot go, who do you want to see suit next week? Morris or Kennard? Lucas Niang.
Morris. Morris.
Okay. I'm a coin flip at this point, but I'll take whoever's there as long as they're ready to work.
Agreed.
Travis, do you think Puka Nacua would have been successful in Reed's offense? Dan called his success from the very beginning. Yeah, I mean, I think we found him. Did you find him before the Senior Bowl? Because we certainly liked him in the Senior Bowl.
Yeah, I had just found him. Like I was just watching some of his tape before I got there, but I mean, he shined. What he does well, what he's being used to do well in LA is exactly what would work here.
He would do here.
It's exactly what he would do here. He is sitting in spots in zone. He is getting open. He's clearing linebackers. He's clearing defenders and sitting in zone. Would have been a nice
it would
fit.
Work here. Yeah. You know, there's something to McVay. He'll use it. And I was pretty happy with him. I wasn't quite as high as you were. I had him lower on my draft board than you did, but I'm glad to see that he's being successful, especially after what KU did to BYU this week. It might be the last time you see a BYU receiver for a while. I'm just saying.
It might be.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to wrap it up with Jason's question. Do you think McDuffie played? How do you think he played so far in the last 3 games? Dan, you start.
Trent McDuffie is a bona fide star. He is a top 10 cornerback in the NFL. He's not even getting interceptions, and he's still giving the ball back to the Chiefs offense. He's forced like 3 or 4 fumbles in his career as a cornerback. That's not easy to do. An undersized cornerback too. Trent McDuffie is a bona fide star. He comes in and he puts so much effort into the run game. It's like he's a linebacker when he comes downhill. He is effort all the time. He is the player next to Chris Jones that they are building this defense around. No, it's not Nick Bolton. It is Chris Jones and Trent McDuffie. Nick Bolton is the next guy in line. But without Trent McDuffie, this is a completely different defense.
I agree with you. And when you look at the top 10 in terms of categorical production, he is in the top 10 now. He is tied for 10th. Guess who he's tied with? Just random guess.
I don't even know. Jalen Johnson?
Close. All the press in the world has gone on Sauce Gardner, and he and Trent McDuffie are tied for the same rank in terms of NFL corners. So that tells you something. In fact, I'm going to look it up real quick before we go because I do want to get this out there. Trent McDuffie is now running at 14% forced incompletion rate. PBUs and interceptions, that is. Yes, he's not coming down with the ball. I'm a little frustrated with that. I do expect that to come on. But he's getting targeted and he's making the most of it. And the forced fumble thing is just crazy because he seemed to develop a knack for it. I don't know where. I don't think he had one at Washington. So I don't know where it showed up from.
It's just good tackling. He's just a good tackler.
Yeah. It's going to be a guy that they can build around. It feels like Snead probably isn't going to get a contract at this point. We'll see, again, depending on the market. But if that happens, then you have a number one in Trent McDuffie. I think that's very, very clear.
Agreed. Absolutely. I think he's already the one. So, yeah.
Rock and roll. Folks, that's going to do it for us. Hit the pressers. You can come over to Locked On Chiefs here in just a couple minutes, and we'll get started over there with Matt Derrick live. Dan, thank you for being here live as always. And we're going to break it down for you tomorrow night too, folks. Please be back with us 7 Central tomorrow. We're going to be in good shape, and we got a lot of good stuff coming this week. I already did a little film blurb like I did last week that you guys are going to get this week. And I'm very intrigued to see what you decide to do this week. So, we will let you guys know. All right. You have a great night. You guys enjoy your evening, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.